Yo, what up, what up? Title of the video, Capitalism is Psychological Warfare. And, you know, if you're coming into this video because you found it on YouTube or you subscribed and it came up, let me preface this by one of the psychological warfare elements of capitalism is that when you hear someone say, capitalism isn't good or whatever, someone's being critical of capitalism, that person is immediately labeled a communist or a socialist or Marxist or whatever it is. And that your brain gets turned off and whatever. But what I want to say is a couple things. One, I am a capitalist. and two, even though above I said capitalism is psychological warfare, it needs to be more like neoliberal, consumerist, corporate crony capitalism is psychological warfare. But that's like the dominant system that most people are operating in. All right, so that's my stance. I'm going to explain quickly how and why capitalism is warfare. This video is linked below. This video is linked below. And just real quick, actually, I'll give you this guy proposed solutions to the capitalist problem. So that video is below the TED Talk. And I'll just say one of his solutions because I think it articulates very quickly and easily what one of the ways to fix the broken system is. And what he proposes is, this neoliberal crony capitalist point of view kind of views capitalism as an economic jungle, right? Like survival of the fittest, et cetera, et cetera. And he's proposing that it should be viewed as a garden. So it's something that, is tended in a way that is fruitful for all of the people involved in it. And that was a really long statement to also say that I really appreciate comments for you guys. Like this video here is sparked from a comment someone left on the previous video. And yeah, I love comments. One comment, like one of my quotes is a single comment can change the world. Like really, or a single share can change the world. Like you can have a large impact on the world without necessarily producing content or doing some small thing. So I rambled to myself in a journal quite a bit. I watched a couple videos and whatever. And I guess the main point I want to make about capitalism and psychological warfare, I will legitimately try to keep this short, is if you change if you start viewing capitalism as psychological warfare, it will kind of reframe how you interact with capitalist systems and people who are, whose minds are kind of warped by, capitalist realism. Capitalist realism just being the idea that capitalism is the only way and the only system that works. If you reframe yourself as being in this psychological war, which is it's a very real thing. It's real in that if you look at even the way nation states, are influencing public opinion and elections through actual, what everyone would say is psychological warfare. China's doing it to Taiwan all the time. The US is doing it to other countries. Other countries are doing it to us. Okay, that's great. So there's that component. But just focusing on the capitalist part, if you see this as warfare, you need to see yourself as a warrior, as a martial artist. Now, martial arts, historically, martial arts are warring arts, right? And historically, that has meant protecting yourself with, violence or threats of violence, right? And it's evolved from there. Like on an individual level, it's evolved into like just sports. On a national larger level, it's evolved into, guns becoming machine guns, becoming bombs, becoming nuclear bombs, becoming missiles, etc. People associate that with warfare, but there's psychological warfare going on now. And if you don't consider yourself a psychological martial artist, you are likely in the this capitalist framework, you are likely, depressed or overweight or anxious, or, the list goes on and on. And if it's not you, it might be your spouse, it might be friends you have, it might be a family member. You're definitely intimately connected to someone who is losing the psychological war that is assaulting all of our minds, right? And if you start to view yourself as a warrior, a martial artist in this, fighting the negative aspects of capitalism, which are many, you will, one, transform your way of life and how you interact with the world around you. And more, you'll be able to help transform the lives of friends and family and people close to you. And that transformation can come from either passing on the psychological martial skills to them. And like some of these skills, I'm making it sound crazy, but the ability to form new and healthy habits, the reducing your level of consumption, right? Like if you make good money and you don't have a large savings account, that's because you're over consuming, right? If you don't have a lot of money and you're struggling to get by, one of the easy ways to, balance that out is reducing consumption. Now, I'm not saying that if someone's poor, like they just need to reduce consumption and that fixes it. But, there are elements and skills that you can pass on to people. Or it could be, seeing through this psychological warfare. Maybe and a lot of people do this and they don't see it as psychological warfare and they're just doing it. But you can develop better, a larger capacity to grow your own wealth by participating in these capitalist systems without them impacting your mental and physical well-being. And then you're able to support, friends and family with not only like the psychological arts, but like with physical arts in terms of whether you're able to, give a friend or family member a room to stay in, whether you're able to help them pay down some debt, whether you're able to help invest in their education, right? Like there are some great, for example, there are some great free and paid programs out there where you can learn coding and, learn digital marketing or whatever. And you would either be able to pass those skills on in a direct manner or just be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to buy you I'm going to buy you Code Academy or something like that. I think that's one of them. But I'm going to give you a premium subscription to Coursera, or hey, if there's a Udemy course that you want, let me know, I'll buy that for you, right? Like there's all these ways, we can support each other. And then, so real quick, I'll also add one of these ill psychological effects of the capitalist world that we live in. And so, people are operating in this false reality that states that if an individual is failing, whether they're an addict, whether they commit crimes, whether they, all these problems, whether they're overweight, out of shape, whether they're, depressed or whatever, this current capitalist framework puts that on the individual. Like it's all about individualism, and we, I don't, but we collectively say that individual is failing. But what's really happening is the system is failing that individual. And so a quote from this video that I will read, and I want to relate it to Jordan Peterson, actually, because it's funny. Like I I think people hate on Jordan Peterson, but you can't hate on the fact that he's developed a large following who say that what he put in the 12 was it 12 steps for making yourself better? I forget the name of the book. And I think he's coming out with 12 more steps for making yourself better. So what he's missing, she quoted really well. And it's just this, because she at the end of her video is like, dude, personal responsibility is important, right? And if you're going to be developing yourself as a psychological martial artist, you're in the world that we're in now. It kind of is an individual pursuit, because so many of the people around you, their minds they're losing the war on the psychological war that capitalism is assaulting them with. That's the thing. We're getting assaulted on individual levels, right? So when you decide, like, yeah, I'm going to be a warrior in this, I'm going to be a psychological warrior in this world. What I wanted to say here and connect it to Jordan Peterson, because to be honest, like, I'd look at Jordan Peterson as a psychological martial artist, right? Like, absolutely. But what she said is personal responsibility is only as good as the environment in which it exists. I'll say it one more time because it's worth saying it again. Personal responsibility is only as good as the environment in which it exists, right? So the point there is Jordan Peterson's awesome tips on living are completely useless unless you're in an environment where you can apply them. And I think the reason, like, I probably don't need to guess this, but like, I'm sure the majority of the Jordan Peterson followers are white males. That would be my guess. I know he's got followers who are black. I know he's got followers who are women. I know he has followers all over the world. But I would guess that over 50%, or if I'm using the 80-20 rule, over 80% of his followers are white men. And the reason for that is when you're a white male, and this isn't me hating on white men, but if you're a white male, the chances that the environment that you're applying these skills in is better for you. And I don't mean better in that you have more money. I don't mean better in that, I'm not even talking about, well, I guess I'm talking about privileges, but like there's less friction. When you're a white male, there's less friction in the world for you, which makes it easier where if you're like, yo, I'm going to use Jordan Peterson's psychological martial system to improve myself, it's going to work. And then, it's coming from a white dude, right? So he's able to speak a white dude who's in North America, Canada, which is, pretty closely, pretty similar in a lot of respects to the US. But yeah. So yeah, I guess I'll end it there. Like, I think I said what I wanted to say. But the important thing, the important thing is to really realize that you are in a psychological war. Like, that's the reality of your life. You are in a psychological war. And if you're depressed, unhealthy, overweight, anxious, you're afraid of the future, all these things, it's because you are losing you're losing the psychological war. And even if you're feeling all right, like, look around at your friends, around at your family, and you see them struggling, it's because they're losing the war. And then in turn, you're losing the war because you don't have the martial capabilities to help them. And I mean, that's martial arts, at the end of the day, is developing the ability to protect yourself, your family, and your community. And if you're unable to do that, it's it's a it's a reflection of your martial capabilities. And again, I'm not coming at this being like blaming you, but I am saying the reality of the world that we're in right now is you just have to develop these skills. And then, ideally you're doing it in a community, you grow the community, et cetera, et cetera. But that's part of the problem with this psychological warfare, is they convince you that it's an individual issue instead of a communal one. And then, like I say, I'm capitalist, but I'm also communist, but it's communist, not communist as the best system for managing an economy, not the communist ideology of the CCP, the PRC, modern China. Although, like, I'm not hating on that, or like communism, communist, in that you commune with your family, with your friends, with your community, and you develop with yourself, with your friends, with your community, the psychological martial skills to reflect the attacks from neoliberal, consumerist, corporate, crony capitalism, because they are not working for you. I was going to end with something. I guess I'll end, like, now, if you're all the way here, like, I'll end with, I don't know if anyone watching this remembers this, if you got to this part of the video, like, the likeliness of you remembering it is high. But what I'll add, I'll also link to a rant I just did on Facebook. I made it public. But one of my favorite movies, my favorite movie easily is Seven Samurai. Awesome movie. It's long, old, black and white, Japanese samurai movie. And the premise is, I've already ranted. I was about to say, now I'm going in full rant mode, but like, I've been there. The premise of the movie is there's a village that, is growing rice or whatever. And these, I want to call them pirates, these bandits, show up and they're like, yo, we're coming back and taking your rice. like they're like, we're coming back and we're going to take your rice. We'll be back. And it's like, what the fuck are they going to do? So then the village does what they can do to hire some samurai to help defend their village from these bandits, right? And it's just like, what's beautiful about that, and what's beautiful about martial arts when you go back in time, is it just paints a clear distinction. Like, you just clearly see there are bandits that are coming to take some people's stuff with their martial ability and their martial arts, and the farmers, etc., hire or recruit another group to defend their rice and their livelihood with martial arts, right? Like, just, it's so clear. It's night and day. And if I use that film as an analogy for the psychological warfare that is happening, crony capitalists are the bandits stealing from you and your friends and your family, stealing your time and your energy and your well-being, both in health, mental and physical well-being. They're stealing that to to enrich their lives, and they're not doing, in this crony capitalist neoliberal framework, people believe that an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos or whatever, that they are these, they're, and I'm not hating on them. Their minds they have good minds for business and all this stuff, but like that they're like somehow creating, they're the creators of this capital and they deserve everything that they're getting. And this isn't me being anti-billionaire or anything like that. But my point is that the capitalists, not just them, all at the top of the system, are really bandits stealing the work of the peasants. Me, you, all, everybody, present, whatever, peasants. But it's done in a way where you're conditioned to not see it that way. Not only do you not see it that way, you are putting the bandits on a pedestal like this is great. This is an example of where you should try to get to. But they're bandits. They're fucking bandits, and they're stealing your time and energy. And they're stealing it from you. They're stealing it from your friends. They're stealing it from your family. And then the people who are supposed to act as these samurai protecting you, in this, I'm gonna hate on democracy a little bit, but people believe it's electing a Biden or electing a Trump or electing a Bernie Sanders or electing a local official. And, but none of these people are samurais, right? We need to be electing psychological samurais. And that's just not the framework that people see the world that they're in. But that's just what it is. And all I was going to say, I'll say this. It's in my rant. But speaking of martial arts, so, I started with physical martial arts, personally, karate. Then I did kung fu. And while I was doing kung fu, northern Shaolin kung fu, while I was doing kung fu, I made the switch to a soft art, Tai Chi. A soft art is my focus. So I continued to practice hard martial arts. I became very competent in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I messed with some stand-up kickboxing and stuff for a while, but I was primarily focused on soft arts, right? So it was around 1998 where I transitioned to soft arts as my focus, even though I continued to do hard martial arts, right? And then I eventually transitioned my focus from soft martial arts to psychological martial arts. And then again, if you're watching this, that basically happened in the 2008 period of time when I ran into all these problems with the government, with police and everything, where my car got towed and everything. And it was that experience where I was like, I'm starting the Milltown Clan to protect and attack these systems. And I was very serious about it, but at the same time, it was like part serious, part LARPing, so to speak. But it was at that point when I transitioned into psychological martial arts. And psychological martial arts, marketing, all these things, persuasion, there's so many aspects to, the ability to build community, and transform the community into, essentially psychological martial artists or whatever. But, that's where my focus shifted. And I guess what's funny is the first version of that was Digital Budo. Even though I mentioned the Milltown Clan, Digital Budo was my first name for the psychological martial art that I was developing. And then it turned into Owning Life. Owning Life was the second variation of the psychological martial art which I was developing. And now this third variation, which I just finished writing the book for, and I got a bunch of systems in mind for it and everything. But it's Flow to Your Dream is the it's actually three things. So, I'm developing the philosophical framework for a new thing, Flowism. That's one. Two, I'm creating, so that's a higher tiered framework, which is more open to interpretation by different cultures and different people. And then my interpretation of Flowism is going to be encased in a book called Flow to Your Dream, right? So Flow to Your Dream is basically going to be designed to help you master the art of effortless living. And effortless living comes from developing psychological warring skill, because it's psychological warring skill that will make your life effortless. It's not effortless by not trying hard. It's effortless because you've worked really, really hard, right? Like a martial artist cannot effortlessly take care of an attacker unless they've trained hard. Same thing. You can't effortlessly take care of life unless you've trained hard in, these psychological warring skills. So Flowism, flow to your dream, and then my expression of flow to your dream. So, like all these subsets is the way of the 108. That's my numbering system up top. That's like I have a whole system and framework that me and friends are using. But there it is, man. There it is. Psychological warfare, man. And here's the thing, like I'm not like I will be selling my book. I'm going to be giving the book away as well. Like it'll be available for purchase. It's open source, remix it, whatever. Like, but the only thing I'll really be selling is people, making the psychological shift to understanding that, it's a war they're in, and then, helping them develop their own frameworks or finding a framework that's suitable for them. Man, I'm just going off in this video. But like, for example, I'm not condemning, religion of any kind, Scientology, and I have lots of criticisms for various religions, but religious frameworks for, mitigating the assault on your psyche can be very useful. There are also aspects of religion that can be a part of the assault on your psyche, right? Like the idea with Flowism is figuring out what is assaulting you and what is building you up, what is making you stronger. And the answer to that question can't come from me. Like all I can be is like, dude, I can pose the question, like there's the question, find the answer, and then I can be like, here are some of my answers. Steal from those, or maybe you can look at those and be like, that's terrible. I need to find, and then under my answers and be like, this is my art, so it's like, some people will filter down and join the art. Some people, like, ideally, I just want people to, like, I've never said this before, but basically, who is attacking me and how can I counter these attacks? That's it. Who is attacking me psychologically? How can I counter these attacks? And what sucks is, you're getting attacked by maybe a spouse, friends, family, because their minds are poisoned by capitalism. Anyway, very happy video. I'm gonna keep it short. Longest video ever. All right, guys, love you. Stay safe. Hope you're doing well. Oh, I'll put, I'm not expecting anyone, maybe one person to join, but there's I guess he's a digital friend of mine, is developing a new social network that's kind of supposed to be the answer to, how social networks have developed in a way that's just extracting, resources from you, time, energy, money, because you see an ad and you go buy some shit you don't need. So he's trying to, develop a social network that counters that. I'll leave 2 links below. I'll leave a link, maybe 3. I'll leave a link to his about page. I'll leave a link to one of his pages explaining that, and I'll leave a link to my community. And what's cool about how he's setting it up is you can come into my community, his community, and just stay totally not anonymous. It's pseudonymous. Pseudonym. Real quick, the difference between anonymous and pseudonymous is synonymous is, if I'm saying it properly, is you using a persistent name, but people don't know who that name is attached to in the physical nation state realm. Anonymous is where you do something and it isn't persistent. It's just a one-off, and then like just no one knows. Where if you're doing it pseudonymously, you're doing shit and you might develop social capital. You might get up, like Reddit for the most part is synonymous. I use my real name on there, but that's frowned upon, where you can develop karma and everything and people don't know who you are, but you have a persistent thing. Point being is, if you join his or my community, you don't have to use your real name. All you need is an email address. And I think what he's doing is kind of like maybe a type of better security for the future, is you log in with a link in your email. So you don't put a password in, you don't do anything. It's really easy to join. And you can actually jump in, start saying shit without even registering. So yeah, I'll put those links below as well. Links to these videos, links to a couple articles. If you're just primarily interested in the solutions for capitalism, watch that video. All right, guys. Peace. This shit's a TV episode.